What's up there, Workforce? Chris here with Work To Game, and for the many new faces around here, I am the other half of Work To Game, so definitely welcome. And I have been out of town, away from all of this, so I have been coming back, and I have spent all day just churning through everything I missed about the Paris Fanfest, and I thought it might be nice to go through the Q&A forum, and so I'm doing that right here, and they have it all translated on Reddit. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to kind of read through it, and so I'll kind of give some of my feedback after I read each question and answer. Definitely a thanks to user LightSamus. That seems to be who did the translation this time, and definitely documented everything. So there's something always nice about whoever is doing a good job writing all these great notes and all of that, whether it's in Japanese or English. It's awesome that somebody takes the time to get this all out there for those of us that want to go back and find out what we missed. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first question was, how does it feel when you kill off a character like Ysael or Yotsuyu? And that's a tough question. When it comes to deciding kills a character, that's me. Serious question, so serious answer. Because we put a lot of effort in what's going in a long time, each character's fate is decided very early on and taken very seriously. And another character that we killed in 4.3, we talked in depth about how we would kill her off, or if we would. We decided killing her at the point was right, but we wanted to give her death meaning, hence the relationship with Gosetsu. So I think that's a really great question. I appreciate that they have a much deeper opening question than sometimes what us North Americans will spend our time asking. And I think that would be really tough to decide how to kill a character off, how to decide kind of where that takes the story from here. But as we start to talk about going into Shadowbringers, and we start to talk about maybe parallel either points in time or realities or whatever, killing off a character doesn't seem like it would be quite as serious moving forward. Why doesn't Mahjong give MGP? There's a clear reason for this. We had a plan to add a table games like poker early in 14 development, but when checking laws, gambling laws can be an issue. So when you look at the back of the game case, you see ratings, and so that's ultimately why they wanted their, that makes sense. On a side note, checking ratings, you may recall where Yotsuyu steps on Gosetsu. Yotsuyu steps on Gosetsu. I'm not very good at all these names. If you could see him fully, it would actually be a ratings concern, but you can only see her foot, not what's happening underneath. So ratings is something we see a lot when asked about like why certain things aren't in the game and why it's not, and not just the ratings in whatever country you're in, but they have to think about how their legal team is going to deal with this in every country they want that version of the game to be in, and if it's worth trying to spin up a second version. You hear about different things like when maybe one part of the world isn't okay with there being like skulls all over the ground or something like that, and now they have to decide, okay, do we want to just swap out all the skulls and not do that, or do we want to have skulls for kind of this bucket of the world, and then this other bucket we'll swap those out with something else? That's a tough question. With the cross server system, can we get a friends list cap increase? We've already tried testing this with 5.12, but have encountered critical errors. As it is, it might be impossible. To alleviate that, we've thought about a new system with a local data system where it's saved to the PC or PS4. Our next task was working out how we would send that data. I appreciate that they're working on this, but I can tell you as somebody who plays multiple platforms, when the Mac client is working right now, I don't think the Mac client runs very well, but I would appreciate that they keep everything cross-platform where I can just log in anywhere and have my friends list. It would be really frustrating to either, get a new PlayStation or something like that and lose all your friends. But maybe they can have two different lists, and so friends that are not on different servers can start on a fresh cap. But that's an interesting problem they ran into. So there we go. Can we get a DualShock controller to rumble on Duty Finder Pop? Yeah, talk to the UA team. Awesome. What's your favorite moment in Eorza and why? My favorite moment was in Binding Coil and clearing it. As a dev, when I destroyed Eorza with a meteor, something that big, only a producer or director can do it. It would be hard to beat a moment like that. Like, my favorite moment in WoW was AQ back then. I don't know that anything will ever be as epic as that. My favorite moment in Final Fantasy, just understanding the history of the game, was the meteor hitting. And I wasn't even a player then. I know Brian was. So destroying the world or drastically creating a worldwide event that's done one time and never again, I think is always going to define a user experience. Have you considered adjusting HP of A and S ranks as they can die too quickly? The solution seems simple, but it's not. The low-level areas have caps for the levels. We could use a fate type mechanic, but if we just changed it to a fate, we couldn't make it work with the conditions systems that hunts have. I remember in Revenant's Toll that a hunt would pop right by the players playing Triple Triad and kill them. So this is one of my issues with Final Fantasy XIV, is they create these self-contained systems, and then anytime there's a new system put in the game, it's never an expansion of a previous system, it's always its own thing. Instead of creating one big thing, and then you can create a rule that affects all of it. And so it becomes really frustrating when you're like, oh, I like this about Fates, and I like this about Hunts, and I already am starting to feel that way from everything that I've watched today on the coverage about the Trust system, that it's this weird expansion of a squadron system, but not. And it really could have been the opportunity to take the squadrons out in the world, and that's not the direction they're taking it. And then you end up with something about it doesn't quite work right, and then they have to come back and say, oh, there's technical issues, and it never will work right. Are we getting Alice Law theme for Orchestron? I'll tell them before the Primals concert to ask Soken. So I cannot imagine that there's going to be any music surrounding this game, either by the Primals or in-game or anything like that, that you don't get Orchestron scrolls for, if I'm reading that question correctly. It'd be nice to have more lore on gear, like raid or job gear. Could we get a quest for this? We could make a third book. We have a chapter about gear in the new lore book. Buy the new lore book. And he definitely shows that off, so that's funny. It's definitely neat to think about the lore behind why things would be designed a certain way. It does put a lot of pressure on the art design, that like they have to kind of back build all these stories in, so that when you go back you find out, oh, that does make sense that would be this class of weapon. But that's intriguing. Could there be a party level sync in Eureka? We're considering new content for 5.0, but it's not something they can do. My issue with that is they've done a great job with the amount of content we're going to get between now and July, where we kind of have this constant wave. And one of those waves is Hydatos, the final Eureka. And so you do this great job of inviting all these players back. Maybe they skipped Stormblood, maybe they skipped Heavensward, maybe they're brand new to 14, maybe they're brand new to this, their first Final Fantasy experience, as this MMO really takes off. And that's due to this game being in a good spot, that's due to some other games being in a bad spot. There's a lot of reasons for it, but there's a lot of new players coming into the game right now, either as returners or just new in general. And Eureka being such a big piece of the content, and the relic system in general being such a big piece of the content, it is disappointing that there's no way for those people to engage at this point without doing a backlog of what feels like it would be hundreds of hours. Maybe it's not, but gosh, it would sure feel like it. Would it be possible to have Byaku's Free Falling as a gold saucer game? Oh, that's a cool idea. We're working on the next gate already. We hope to have it for 5.0's launch, but it might take more time. Do you still want it to, if you fall and go splat, even if you win, you die? I mean, if it's just a game, you could... why not? With war erupting, will we see Nanimo fight? Questions like this I never expect them to answer. Like, they're never going to just go, oh, well, I wasn't going to spoil it, but now let me tell you about 5.3. So this Sultan would rather fight with Raubon. Let me ask this. If an enemy is targeting Nanimo and she runs towards you, would you take the damage for her? Would you protect her? Unlike with Tataru, you wouldn't run away, right? Well, think about it. Honestly, just asking about anything, will we see a character fight? Will we see a change in our pet system? Will we see balance changes? Will we see development around a certain aspect of story? Even just questions that we already do know the answer to. Will we get more Hildebrand? Will we get MSQ with each major patch? Those are all empty questions to me. Best case, it responds with them responding with a clever question. There's not an actual answer here. Nor should there be. Do we get a new Ultimate in Shadowbringers? They've already talked about that. They talked about it at the North American. They had a whole panel on it. Okay. So it's nice to see that every FanFest can ask wasted questions. Will we be able to use minions or eggies as housing items? If it's just placing them, it's possible, like plushes. If we wanted it to move, we'd have to look in collision, etc. Like a house pet. We've looked at adding a system for moving minions, would require a lot of testing. Can't go into too much detail, but we're thinking new minion content like a farm. It's only in the planning phase, not at 5.0. It's neat to think that they're coming out with another way to do minions, because the Verminion, the mini game at the saucer, just doesn't seem to do justice to the minion system. But I mean, this would be a nice extension if it could just be like either like a brief animated stuffed animal that just has the same collision as like just a hitbox around it. It'd be neat to place alongside the mannequin system. And you just kind of swap it out. It's purely cosmetic. It sits right next to the mannequin. That's it. I don't think it needs to be more than that, but if they're thinking of something more than that, great. What is your favorite trial and dungeon? My favorite trial is Titan Extreme. Good choice. Even at high level, it's a lot of fun. It's hard to decide on a favorite trial, but it has to be Titan. Well, it doesn't sound hard. Swallow's Compass in 4.3 is a dungeon I really liked. It really had a lot of new and fresh mechanics that the younger staff worked on. I also really like Gimlet Dark. I liked Gimlet Dark a lot. That was created by more veteran designers. Shadowbringers is going to bring a very interesting dungeon. I was very surprised when checking it. Please look forward to it. Good answer. Deep Dungeon in Shadowbringers? Maybe. We've done it twice before, so we'll probably bring a third version, but we haven't decided. After FanFest, I'm going back to decide on future content, and it will probably be decided then. I think the Deep Dungeon system is something that does need to make its way in as a lateral form of content, but I appreciate that the Stormblood iteration added some things to it, and I wouldn't mind seeing them go one step further, gamifying it just a little bit more. I had hoped they'd gone further with Stormblood, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. I would love to see them have like modifiers that affect it weekly and stuff like that, so that it has more of a replayability instead of this, you enjoy it for 2 to 3 weeks from whenever you start playing it, and then you're kind of done. I'd prefer to see them bring in something like some sort of event to it, seasonal leaderboards, something like that, where there's a reward for getting in there and beating certain challenges. Maybe this week there's a challenge for the highest ranked red mage and they get a glamour set or whatever. Best in class, best overall, best team. Put restrictions on it. Say, okay, best team to not bring a healer or whatever. I would love to see them basically take the exact Stormblood iteration and then just lay a level of complexity over the top of it. If I got my pick. What mount can we expect to get from the Pixies tribe? Will there even be a Beast Tribe quest with the Pixies? Probably. But what mount? Pixie Wings? Maybe too early. We'll think of something good. Once again, like, they're not gonna reveal the loot table for a Beast Tribe, the timing on the Beast Tribe. Like, they're not gonna spoil future live letter content. So that question is, like, I know you're excited, but, like, honestly think about what answer you expected. Can we have Yotsuyu's outfit and hair? Once again, could have been, before I even scroll up, could have been a better question. Questions like, we see different outfits and hairstyles in cutscenes with NPCs, with quest givers and things like that. Is there any reason that we would not expect to have all of those things implemented at some point? To kind of put the pressure on them. Give me everything. Don't just ask, well, so-and-so's hair is red. Can you make my hair red? Like, it's just an empty question. The gear was made for her pose. We figured it to be asked, so we might try. As for the hair, it's too straight and would clip with gear. You have to assume that there's a reason they didn't already add it in. So unless you're going to ask, like, what are some reasons that you don't add gear in? What are some reasons? Think bigger. Don't think about, like, I have shoulder pad number 238 and hairstyle number 237, and they don't quite match. Is there any way, like, that question only works for you instead of the literally millions of other people who might have similar things, but not exactly your question. Can we use balcony door in mansions? We are currently testing for this. If you were to exit onto the balcony, it wouldn't be in the public housing area. It would be impossible. It could be. It could just be inaccessible, and you could be able to jump down and just make it an exit to an area that you can't otherwise get to. You'd have another load screen. It would be impossible to have this work, but we're trying to work on a way to effectively fake being able to see others from your balcony. I don't know. Like, can we get high five emotes? It's a clever question. I can already picture the answer. The answer is no. What if you have a Lalafell and a Rogadin? How high should the Lalafell jump? So you would have to make everybody high five at a standard height. so that all hands animate to that, like they're just trying to touch like a button on a wall. So like this point, and I'm just trying to touch this point. So if I'm taller than this, I'm high-fiving down. And then if you have two tall characters, they're both high-fiving down. Like, or you would have to teach an incredible amount of logic for a single emote that not everybody uses. We get a lot of requests for emotes used by two different characters, but yes, size differences is the problem. Size differences is the problem. And so once they solve it for one, they would open up all kinds of things. It would open up handshaking. It would open up, like, it would just open up a lot, like a proper, like you could have fancy handshakes, you know, kind of pounding it, explode, like, you know, there's a lot that you could do. But to have two characters, like, do an interaction where they're going to, like, jump and heel click or something sounds really complicated compared to the system now where it's really just it's just single emotes. Plus, how does that work? Do you have to type it in at the same time? So there's like a pending request for a high five. What's your funniest story from the dev team? In my whole life or just 14? When I was 20 at a Japanese dev, this was my first project as director, but I'm only 20 and everybody else was older. Even as director and designer, I was still the lowest on the totem pole. I had to make schedules for the team. I'd have to go to these older colleagues and badger them to meet deadlines. So when I went to a character modeler and asked him to do this thing, he told me I can do it by Tuesday. I asked on Tuesday if it was done. It wasn't. I tried the next day. Nope. Maybe Friday. On Friday, still not finished. I understand, but it has to be finished as it'll affect the project. Can you work overtime? No, I don't want to because I have to go home and help my wife with her manga. There are a lot of different types of game developers. I put a lot of effort in today because of that experience. I'm grateful for it. That colleague, I haven't seen him since. I'd like to ask if his wife finished the manga. I don't know if it's funny, but it's definitely insightful. What's the reasoning behind mechanics like starboard and larboard? Koji answers this one. When we got the original Japanese, we used for kanji for starboard and port. Most English people don't know these terms, though. I want to make it easier, but still relevant. The older words for port was larboard because it begins with the L and larboard is left. They'll get it, right? When the content came out, Yoshida summoned me to his room, and I had to explain why a lot of players were suddenly talking on the forums. We have a system now where the battle team makes sure that important terms are clear in all languages. I thought I'd be fired when Yoshida called me in. I think this game, more than any other MMO I've been, is really good about telegraphing something, and once you learn it once, if it ever shows back up again, like the stack mechanic is the stack mechanic, right? The donut is the donut. And so we end up with these. So I really appreciate that when they think about these things moving forward, if they make a mistake, they correct it, and then that is what they move on all of time. So if they want to leave it, you know, starboard, larboard forever and ever, then what's key to me is next time we come across something like this, that it's also starboard, larboard, so that we all know and we can educate players that maybe didn't have that previous experience. And so that's it. Now they're going to move into the 2018 finals. So that is awesome. So thanks, guys. I wanted to go through that Q&A with you, kind of drop some of my thoughts. I always find the Q&As interesting. I feel like there were actually a lot more good questions in there than there were at the North American. It does help that at that point we've seen 2 opening ceremonies, and we've had all of the North American complete at that point before this Q&A ever happened. I don't know exactly where this fit into the schedule because I've just been taking all the content in because I'm behind. So thank you, guys. I'm going to go back and maybe work on, I'd like to go back and finish up watching the live letter one more time. I listened to the 2 hours today, but I was doing some other stuff, so I'd like to listen one more time, be sure I got it. If you guys are interested in a summary, I know I'm late to the game. I could try to put one together, but it being so late, definitely let me know in the comments below if that's something you want. If it's not something you want, then I just won't summarize this, but usually Brian does a longer form of the live letter and I do the summary, but because I was unavailable, there isn't really a summary on our channel. So if that's not something you want, maybe Brian and I will do like a looking back or something like that, but definitely let us know kind of how you guys would like us to start summing up what all happened at Paris, what all we know, going into the final, you know, fan fest and looking down the barrel at July and saying, okay, the expansion is here. What do I need to know? What do I need to prep? things like that. It's a series of videos we don't really have structured, but we know it's multiple videos and that there's a lot of information to digest. So that's really it. Once again, my name's Chris with Work To Game. So many of you are new. Welcome to the workforce. Definitely, that's super exciting. There's so many new faces. Thank you, Patreons. You guys are awesome. I owe you guys a piece of mail that hasn't gone out yet. So I'm going to go do that, and I will talk to you guys next time.
Hey guys, it's me. Oh, well, if you don't know me, my name's Terry. I'm a beautiful Tyrannosaurus from Texas, and it just doesn't get more country than that. I tell you what, I grew up in these parts. I was resurrected by a ghost, and that ghost told me that I needed to come out and hang out on Work To Game's YouTube channel to tell everybody they should totally hit that thumbs up. Thumbs down make Terry hungry. It makes me hungry. You hear me? Hungry. Anyway, Terry, just keep it together. Keep it together, Terry. All right, guys. So, without doubt, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and hit subscribe if you haven't already to see more of me and my beautiful nose. Okay. All right. Good talking to you. I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you real soon. Terry, the Tyrannosaurus from Texas.